Life isn't always fair, but don't let that feeling of anger or sadness ripple into the day, ripple into the week, ripple into the month, and ripple into the year. How you show up today impacts how you spend the next day, the next day, the next day. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Dom. Today is a solo episode all about managing stress. One of my goals for 2025 is to record more solo episodes because I can see on the back end that they're your favorite episodes, which I find so surprising, but also very flattered that you guys love listening to what I have to say. I love having a yap. I love having a chat. So I am determined to do 2 solo episodes a month. And I would love to know what you would like me to talk about. So feel free to DM me or leave a comment on this episode about some topics you'd like me to talk about. Today's episode is all about managing stress. I am no stress expert psychologist, but this is just what's worked for me. I actually wrote the copy for this episode 2 days ago. When my mum was actually in hospital. She had to have an emergency procedure. And it was a very stressful time. And I dealt with that stress using the tools in my toolkit, which I always talk about these tools in the toolkit. But honestly, I don't know how I've gotten through this last week without those tools. A bit of a backstory. Mum has been on the podcast. She's been sick for 4 years, fighting cancer, and we were meant to go on a cruise, just her and I. And the week leading up to the cruise has just been a week from hell. She had to go into emergency surgery on her kidneys and then felt really, really ill from that surgery and then had to get an emergency surgery again on her stomach. And it's just been really hard seeing mum so fragile. And it's a really stressful time. But I actually came home from the hospital when I wrote down this episode in the notes. I felt pulled to share this because I know so many people deal with stress, whether it's someone in their life being ill, whether it's a breakup, whether it's work, whatever it is that is stressing you out. There are tools for you to use that are always there for you to help manage that stress. So the first way that I manage stress is gratitude. And I talk about gratitude all the time, but it really changed the narrative for me. I woke up not wanting to be thankful for anything. My mum was in hospital. We were meant to go on this cruise. We weren't going anymore. I was angry. But as I do every morning, I put my bond charge on, had my light on, meditated, and I opened my gratitude journal and I realized there were still things to be grateful for. One of them being my own health. When you're seeing someone in your life so sick, I felt so grateful to have my health and to be able to move my body, to be able to nourish myself, to be able to swim in the ocean. I was also grateful that Mum and I were in Sydney and she could see her doctor here. We weren't on the cruise. It would have been a disaster if this happened when we were in New Zealand. And I just realized that there are things to be grateful for, even on those toughest of days. And I'm such a big believer in sitting in the shit. Life isn't always fair, but don't let that feeling of anger or sadness ripple into the day, ripple into the week, ripple into the month, and ripple into the year. How you show up today impacts how you spend the next day, the next day, the next day. So feel the shit, but just don't let it take over. And that's where gratitude's amazing, because you change the narrative. I always talk about that statistic that for every one positive thought, we have 9 negative thoughts, which is why we need to actively be reprogramming our mind to see the positive. So I woke up, I did my gratitude, and wow, it really, really changed how I viewed the day and how I showed up to my mum in hospital. I was like, we're going to go on a cruise another time. Your health is the most important thing. As well as gratitude, another journaling hack is just brain dumping on the paper. Often, when you're stressed, you are rethinking that story in your head or that situation in your head. And when you think about a situation that's happened in the past, your body can't recognize that it's a thought. And you have the physical sensation as well. Your body goes into fight or flight mode, even if you're just laying on the couch or laying in the bed. So, brain dumping is incredible. Just write down all your thoughts. And often, when you write it on paper, you realize that it's not as big as you thought it was, or maybe it's more manageable than you had given yourself credit for. I do not ever go to bed without a journal next to me. I often wake up in the middle of the night in a stress and a panic. And I open my journal and I'm just scribbling my thoughts. Often I can't even read it the next day because it's dark. I don't put on the light. I just scribble it out. I get it out of my head and onto the paper. And this has been such a game changer for me. I actually got an Aura ring for Christmas, thanks to Tom. Best present ever. And it shows me my sleep score. And I've seen those nights when I've woken up in a panic and I've written my thoughts. I'm only up for 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't impact my sleep score as long as I get it out on paper. If I just ruminate in bed, it's going to give you that physical sensation again. As I said, your body can't tell the difference and you're just going to feel anxious and more stressed. So give it a go, have a journal handy, and yeah, just let those thoughts out. The reason I did create the self journal was that the prompts are laid out for you. So if you're someone who's new to journaling, it's there, it's simple, it's a few minutes in the morning, it's a few minutes in the night. And the reason I encourage you to do journaling every day, no matter if you're stressed or not, is any good habit or tool only works if you do it repeatedly. To get the benefits from journaling, you need to be doing it every day. You're working a muscle. The mind is like a muscle. You need to work it every day. So just stick to it. So then when these stressful periods in your life pop up, you're already equipped. I say your morning journaling is like putting on your armor for the day. When you do that, you are more able to go out and attract the right energy, be less irritable to maybe email or your boss, whatever it is. Put that armor on and step out as your strongest and your best self. My second way I manage stress is movement. I never thought I would get on this podcast and recommend running. Like, I always thought the run clubs were, I'm never going to do that. That's why I created a walk club. But wow, I am loving running. I'm finding running incredible for my anxiety and my stress because it's meditative. You can't go on your phone, you can't scroll Instagram, you are just present, taking in the environment, listening to music or listening to a podcast, but actually listening and tuning in. I have been loving it. The runner's high is so good. And even when I was writing the notes for this episode, I had a bit of brain fog. I just took Crumble for a 20-minute walk, came home energized, just moving the body. When you feel that stressful energy, move your body. It does wonders. And it can just be that 20-minute walk, a 5-minute walk. Get out of the house, get into a new space. It is so powerful. I also think moving with a group of people is that extra level too of just building the endorphins. And the reason you feel good is because when you exercise, you're increasing the blood flow and oxygen to the brain. And this is what releases endorphins and serotonin into the body, the feel good hormones. Even just a 10-minute walk, you'll get that serotonin and dopamine hit. So get moving. I know it's hard when you're feeling stressed. I know, but just get outside. My third way I manage stress is breath work. So I feel like I used to talk about breath work a lot more on the podcast, and I'm going to bring it back. I've got an amazing breathwork coach. He's coming in for the Self-Love Thursdays. Breathwork has changed my life. One of the ways it has is breakthrough breathing. So breakthrough breathing is an amazing stress relief. It is where you do a series of breathing techniques over a long period of time. say 45 minutes to an hour, and it brings up deep emotions that are sitting in your body that you didn't even know you were thinking about. The reason for this is when you don't deal with emotions, they don't just go away, they sit in your body. And I've heard this, I'm not sure who says it, but I've heard it a lot on podcasts. When you think about the word disease, it's dis-ease. So we need to make sure we're letting go of this pain and this suffering because it's sitting in our body creating disease. And breakthrough breathing is an amazing way to just let out that emotion. Now, breakthrough breathing isn't something you can do every day. It takes an hour, it's intense, it's emotional. But there are breathwork techniques that take a few minutes that are effective, quick, and calm your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're stressed, they are so impactful. 3, 4, 5 breathing is what I do every night when I go to bed. So the way it works is you breathe in for 3, hold it for 4, and release for 5. The exhale is longer than the inhale, and this is the key to reducing stress in the body. So try this technique when you're feeling stressed, or if you're someone who struggles with sleep, it is super effective. Just do as many rounds as you can. I often just do it and I'm asleep. So I don't know how many rounds I do, but I just pass out. It's so impactful. Again, with all these tools, you can't wait until you're at the height of stress to then start using them. Incorporate them every day so that your body gets used to them, and then you're reducing the stress throughout the day, throughout the month. So when those big stressful moments happen, you've shed all those little things that bubble at the surface. Trust me, this breathwork technique is really, really powerful. I would love to know how you go if you give it a shot. The fourth way to manage stress is to reduce or eliminate caffeine from your diet. Okay, I know this is terrible to hear, but this is only short term while you're in that height of stress. So right now with mum being in hospital, I'm not having any matcha because I can tell it will spike my cortisol and just make this time more stressful than it needs to be. So the way I check in is when I do my meditation and my journaling in the morning. That's a really good time to check in with how I'm feeling and if my body is either ready for caffeine or not. So I try not to be an autopilot and not just make a matcha because that's what I do every morning. I assess how I'm feeling. Or if you're someone who drinks, a long black in the morning, maybe have a weak one, or just reducing it and seeing how you feel. Caffeine definitely impacts the stress in your body. So if you're having a stressful time, try your best to reduce or eliminate it. The last tip to manage stress is connecting with people. Wow, this is huge. So I put on my story, mum in hospital, and she was just really sorry to the people who had organized this cruise. Like she was saying, thank you so much, and we're so devastated we can't go. And it was just a really emotional video because we've been looking forward to this cruise for 3 months, counting down. And that video, the amount of messages mum and I received and how it helped us cope and deal with this really tough time has blown us away. People's kindness and care and empathy. And it makes me think about that quote, which is a problem shared is a problem halved. And I think often we don't share our problems because we don't want to be a burden. We don't want to be annoying. We don't want people to feel sorry for us. But sharing your stressful moments with people who care about you, it really helps deal with it. And just like I said, stress stays in your body unless you talk about it or deal with it. This is an amazing way to release the stress, talking about it. The more times you say it, the more okay you can get with it, the more time you have to process it. It is really, really powerful. So yeah, I'm not saying blast all your problems on Instagram, but what I'm saying is have those key people who you talk to about it and who are super aware of what you're going through so that you don't have to put on this fake facade that everything's okay and that you can let them know that shit's hit the fan right now, and that's okay too. I hope that you can take these 5 tips on board, whether you're going through something super stressful or just need those little moments in your day to let go of those hard moments that happen to all of us. These are super simple tips: 5-minute walk, 3-4-5 breath work, journaling, connecting with people. Try them, and yeah, maybe share this episode to someone who needs some help with their stress management, who might really learn something from this. If you guys have a moment to leave a review on this podcast, it will help me grow so much. I have such big dreams for 2025 for Self Dom, and yeah, I hope you love this solo episode, and I will see you on the next one.